Spectro Solutions, Volume 5, read by Sebastian Brown. Chapter 11, To the Bridge. The team flew over the old canal bridge in their new Spectromobile, screeching to a halt beneath the shadow of the Camden Lock Railway Bridge. The area, usually bustling with tourists and vendors, was eerily calm, the air thick with the hushed murmurs of a crowd being held back by a police cordon. Lindsay and Gina surveyed the scene from the front seats, as Alex and Jamie jumped out of the ambulance's back doors, their Spectro gear gleaming as they landed on the cobbles like a pair of action figures brought to life. The duo cut striking figures in the dim light, their silhouettes framed against the vehicle's bright interior. Lindsay and Gina joined them from the front, their eyes sharp as they scanned the area. A young police sergeant stepped forward, cap in hand, face plastered with worry. "It's a right mess in there," he said, waving a hand toward the market. "Some kind of ghost. It's tearing the place apart." "Don't worry, we'll take you from here," replied Lindsay, her voice steady. As the team took cover by the entrance, the sight that greeted them was one of utter devastation. The once vibrant market was now a sea of destruction. Stalls that had been filled with souvenirs and street food lay in ruin, the cobblestones barely visible beneath a tide of broken wood and twisted metal. "God blimey, it's bloody huge," said Gina. "Is that a zombie?" asked Jamie. "It'll be the first," replied Lindsay. "We can take it," added Alex. The team watched on as the ghostly carriage driver kicked through the shattered remains of the market stalls like a sulking toddler. Amidst the wreckage, Lindsay spotted something unusual. A strange man in a black suit perched casually on a stool, as if he were a spectator at a show, rather than a witness to supernatural havoc. "Looks like we've got an audience," muttered Gina, her focus shifting between the relaxed onlooker and the rampaging ghost. Lindsay nodded, her hand inching towards one of her vambraces. "Well, let's give him a performance he won't forget." With a collective nod, the team readied themselves and activated their Spectro lashes. The vibrant whips burst to life, lighting up the street around them with a bright neon glow. Without thinking, Alex bolted from cover, his lashes buzzing with energy. "Alex, wait!" Lindsay gasped, reaching out to grab him, but he was already in motion. His feet pounded against the cobblestones as he charged towards the ghostly carriage driver, his neon lashes trailing behind him like a comet's tail. Jamie grinned and followed suit, sprinting after Alex. "Don't worry," he called back to Lindsay. "He knows what he's doing." She wasn't entirely convinced. The spectre sensed the duo's approach, its hulking form twisting unnaturally as it hurled a massive sheet of wood like a jagged discus. Alex's mind raced, up or down. At the last moment, he planted his feet and vaulted into the air. The debris whizzed under him, missing him by inches. He landed hard but kept his momentum, his heart hammering as his trainers skidded on the slick cobblestones. Behind him, Jamie had chosen the opposite tactic, diving low and sliding under the deadly frisbee just in time. Alex's breath quickened as he cracked one of his lashes, the sound cutting through the air like a warning shot. The neon cable wrapped around the specter's arm with a satisfying snap, tightening as Alex pulled with all his might. For a moment, it seemed like he had the upper hand, but the ghost resisted. It was a lot stronger than he had anticipated. Suddenly, a surge of energy ripped through the market as the man in the suit levitated into the air.
"Exorcists!"
His voice echoed through the chaos like thunder. Alex's attention snapped upwards, where the man now hovered above the battle. For a split second, he forgot the ghost in front of him, focus locked on the mysterious floating figure. That split second was all the carriage driver needed. It seized Alex's lash and hurled him across the market, slamming him into the nearest wall with a bone-rattling thud. The impact knocked the wind out of him, the world spinning as he fell to the ground. Thorn sneered, his eyes gleaming with malice.
So, you are the mortals that have been capturing my kin.
Lindsay and Gina broke from cover. They rushed forward, Spectro lashes extended. It was a practiced maneuver, but Thorn was fast. His form blurred, slipping through their attacks like smoke as he dodged each lash with ease. Lindsay's gaze hardened as she caught a glimpse of Alex pulling himself up, bruised but still in the fight. Meanwhile, Jamie was now fully engaged with the spectral carriage driver, dodging its riding crop with rapid, calculated steps. Every time the ghost lunged, Jamie pivoted out of reach, his movements fluid but tense. Alex pushed himself upright, his back pressed against the wall. Jaw tight, he snapped his lashes low. The energy crackled as they extended, wrapping tightly around the ghost's ankles. The spectre, caught off guard, glanced down at the ethereal bindings. Its movement halted as it struggled against the unexpected restraint. As soon as the spirit looked down, Jamie struck, snapping his lashes around the spirit's arms. Alex grinned. Jamie nodded, and with a sharp tug from both, the towering spectre was sent spiraling into the air before crashing into the ground face first. "Frickin' book it!" cried Jamie. Alex grabbed a Spectro book from his belt and scrambled across the cobblestones before slamming it down on top of the ghost. A blinding light erupted as the spectre was consumed by the book, its scream echoing briefly before fading into nothingness. Thorn roared in frustration. His entertainment for the night was done, but the battle was far from over. Lindsay and Gina struggled to wrangle him as he avoided their attacks, his form shimmering with energy.
You think you can hold me? I am Lord Thorn. I am the whispered curse in every rose's bloom. Who do you think you are?
Lindsay stepped forward, her lashes at the ready. "We're Spectro Solutions, and we're here to put an end to this," she declared.
No. You are wheat to the harvest. Do you even know what you're doing?
Thorn demanded, his voice stern.
You're upsetting the natural order, you maggots.
With a wave of his hand, like a magician pulling a rabbit from a hat, a swarm of evil minions began to rise from the debris, each one animated by his own dark, supernatural energy. They looked like something plucked straight out of a deranged Punch and Judy show as they clawed their way free of the wreckage. Composed entirely of wooden splinters, they had big, bulging eyes that glowed a dull red, and rows of sharp, wooden teeth, ready to take a bite out of anything in their path. Each creature held a tiny wooden pitchfork, and their limbs twitched like puppets on broken strings as they scurried towards Alex and Jamie like a swarm of rats.
Try and catch me, if you can.
Thorn taunted.
Well, this is a first,
cried Jamie, twirling his lashes. The market erupted as Alex and Jamie fought back to back, their spectral lashes a neon blur as the creatures leapt. Each strike was a burst of spectro energy that shattered the splinter goblins, leaving behind tiny clouds of red mist like miniature paint bombs. While Alex and Jamie battled the wooden horde, Lindsay and Gina worked in tandem as they attempted to corner Thorn. He was elusive, his form flickering like a shadow, always one step ahead.
"You'll have to do better than that,"
he sneered as he dodged the pair's lashes. Alex and Jamie made short work of the minions and rushed to join Lindsay and Gina. The team moved as one, their lashes snapping through the air in perfect synchronicity. Thorn countered their assault with a blast of supernatural energy that lit up the market like a firework. Gina rubbed her eyes as she grabbed a Spectro book from her belt and flicked it open. The green tendrils licked around the mouth as Thorn's eyes widened in realization.
"Clever,"
he murmured, his voice dripping with condescension.
"but not clever."
Enough!
With a flick of his wrist, he sent a wave of concussive force that blasted the team off their feet. Lindsay's ears rang as she rolled over, watching in horror as Thorn wrenched open a swirling portal, stepping inside as if he controlled reality itself. The team could only watch in stunned silence as he vanished from view, the portal blinking out of existence with a sharp pop. The rapid thudding of their hearts echoed the confusion etched on their faces. "He's gone," muttered Alex, frustration lacing his words. His eyes narrowed as he spotted one last splinter goblin skittering towards Gina. With a sharp crack, he obliterated the creature mid-leap, its wooden fragments scattering on the ground like matches. Gina, still sprawled on the cobbles, managed a weak thumbs up. "Thanks, mate." Adrenaline coursed through Alex's veins, but the physical pain from his impact with the wall was starting to catch up. He looked around at his teammates, each one as exhausted as he was. Lindsay, still catching her breath, glanced back at Alex. Worry flickered in her eyes. "What was that?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Well, he weren't a normal ghost," said Gina as she stared up at the sky. Despite her usual humor, the battle had left her deflated. "Whatever he is, he's not invincible," said Jamie, his eyes flashing with determination. "He ran, didn't he?" Their hearts still pounded in their chests, but beneath the exhaustion, they knew one thing for certain. This was far from over. Chapter 12. Echoes in the Dark. The newly refurbished Spectromobile sat out in the car park as the sun's golden rays bathed Alex's garden in a warm glow. It was a rare moment of calm for the team. The Ghost Wranglers sat on the grass, their power packs resting beside them like silent guardians. Their Spectro lashes lay uncoiled but switched off, glinting like metallic snakes basking in the afternoon sun. Lindsay tore at the turf, her brow furrowed. "I can't believe he got away. Slipped right through our fingers." "We nearly had him," mumbled Alex, his gaze distant. "Yeah, well, nearly never won the race," said Gina. Despite the calm, the team was still reeling from their encounter at the market. While they had managed to contain one of the spirits, Thorn's escape had left them grappling with something they hadn't felt in a long time: doubt. Their past victories had made them feel invincible, but the escape of this powerful spirit had shattered that illusion. Their reputation had also taken a hit. Once seen as skilled professionals, their inability to stop Thorn had raised questions about their competence. Their failure hung heavy in the air, but today was about moving forward, honing their skills, and preparing for the next job. Gina had her laptop, now covered in ex-Ghost stickers, perched on an upturned bucket as a video tutorial on lasso and whip tricks played on the screen.
So, you've mastered the beginner and intermediate lessons. Now, we move on to advanced techniques,
chirped the presenter. The team leaned in as the instructor demonstrated a particularly complex maneuver. Lindsay cracked her knuckles. "All right, let's do this." Determined to improve, the team grabbed their gear and began to practice. The garden was alive with the sounds of whips cracking and cans clinking as they were struck. Alex smashed a row of bottles that he had lined up on the wall, his Spectro lashes slicing through the air with precision. Lindsay let out a laugh as she managed to loop one of her lashes around an empty can and fling it towards Alex, watching it bounce off his head with a hollow clunk. "I owed you one," she chuckled, her eyes sparkling. Alex glanced back, one eyebrow raised. "Ooh, nice shot!" He whipped his own lashes, sending another can soaring in Lindsay's direction as she quickly ducked to avoid it. Gina, always the perfectionist, replayed the video in slow motion, her eyes flicking between the screen and her own movements to ensure she mirrored each motion exactly. "He won't get away next time," grumbled Jamie. With pinpoint accuracy, he cracked his lashes, striking cans one after the other as he tossed them into the air. As the team practiced, the faint chime of a distant church bell marked the passing hours. The shadows lengthened, the light began to fade, and a chill ran through the air. In the heart of London, within the subterranean confines of the British Museum, a solitary archaeologist stood in a wood-paneled auditorium, completely immersed in her work. Her glasses slipped down her nose as she carefully inserted a carved block into an ancient stone structure. She scrutinized the crumbling surface of the relic. The air around it seemed to hum with anticipation. The Erebus Gate, as it was known, was a thing of legends. Tales spoke of ancient gods using it as a conduit, a passage between their celestial domain and the mortal world. The artifact stood before the woman like a strange doorway, adorned with elaborate carvings and mysterious vials that contained an unsettling blue liquid. The moment the block was set in place, the gate responded with a surge of energy, a palpable hum that resonated briefly through the silent chamber. "This is incredible," the woman whispered, her hands tracing the glowing patterns that had appeared. She could feel the energy building, as if the gate were alive, responding to her touch. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the auditorium. The lights flickered once, then died, plunging the room into darkness. The only sound was the frantic beating of the woman's heart. Then, a faint, ethereal giggle echoed around her. She ducked behind a nearby table, her hands shaking as she fumbled for her phone. The screen cast a weak glow, revealing a wispy, translucent figure forming before the gate. A skeletal man in a sleek black suit, his piercing red eyes burning like embers.
"Playing with toys you shouldn't be,"
Thorne growled, his voice a low, chilling rasp. Fear clutched her by the throat, each word heavy and forced. "What do you want?" she stammered, barely peeking out from her hiding place. Thorne's lips curled into a sinister smile.
"Oh, I'm just a curious soul,"
he drawled, his voice laced with mockery.
"Drawn to the gate, to its power. It's nice to see that you already have the key."
His eyes flashed with a predatory glare, his gaze locking onto hers like a hunter recognizing its prey. Before she could respond, her phone died, engulfing the room in the sinister crimson glow that emanated from Thorn. She crouched in the darkness, her heart pounding as the dreadful apparition stretched out towards the ancient relic, his grin widening with malevolent intent. He drew a symbol on the headstone, the sigil slowly taking form as his finger moved across the relic. Then, with a deliberate motion, he pressed the block deeper into the frame, locking it in place with the sound of grinding stone. The woman watched in horror as Thorn's form shimmered and vanished, leaving her with a growing sense of dread. For a moment, there was nothing but darkness. Suddenly, a swirling vortex of bright orange light exploded within the gate, expanding rapidly, twisting and churning like a storm. She could hear whispers, human voices beckoning from the other side. With a surge of adrenaline, she grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher, her only weapon to defend against whatever was about to emerge. Thorn's laughter echoed around the auditorium, dark and mocking.
You can't stop it now,
he hissed.
The gate is open.
The vortex pulsed as it filled the confines of the gate. Slowly, a clawed hand extended through the swirl of energy, its gnarled fingers flexing as if they were testing the air. The woman's heart pounded as she aimed the fire extinguisher and blasted the hand with a jet of compressed CO2. The creature screeched in outrage, momentarily retracting back into the swirling maelstrom. With a desperate prayer, the woman seized her chance and bolted. The monstrous hand reached through the vortex again, followed by a long, reptilian snout. As she neared the exit, she heard it, the horrifying sound of claws scraping against stone, quickly closing the gap. A sudden iron grip clamped around her leg, pulling her back with a force that stole her final cry. Deep in the basement, something ancient and malevolent had emerged. Chapter 13. It's Spectro time. The Spectro mobile screeched to a halt outside the British Museum, its antique wail echoing off the grand facade as the sirens faded. The building pulsed with the vibrant colors of neon spirits bleeding through the windows and spilling out into the deserted courtyard. The air was still. The only sound was the rustle of unseen leaves and the nervous shuffling of a single security guard. The team hopped out of the ambulance and slowly trudged up the old steps.
It's all going off in there,
the guard whispered, his voice trembling.
Do you think you can get rid of them?
Yeah, you just leave it to the professionals, mate. Jamie grinned, patting the Spectro books hanging from his belt. The grand entrance loomed above, the museum's history etched into every weathered block of limestone. The city's ambient light washed over the imposing exterior, casting a soft glow on the majestic columns that stood guard.
Are you seeing this?
Gasped Lindsay. As the team peered through the huge glass doors, they were greeted by an almost enchanting spectacle. The vast main hall, usually filled with the sounds of visitors, was now alive with a quartet of glowing entities. The spirits bobbed and weaved through the air, their movements buoyant and carefree. Each ghost was a radiant splash of color against the dark backdrop of the museum, a dazzling display of ruby red, electric blue, sunny yellow, and emerald green. Their empty eyes blinked with curiosity, while their mouths stretched into surprised ovals. They pulsed with an ethereal light, casting long, distorted shadows on the polished marble floor.
Hang on,
muttered Alex.
why are the lights off?
The security guard, still hovering nearby, swallowed hard.
Power's been off for about an hour,
He said, his voice shaky.
Started just before they showed up. I thought it was just a normal outage at first. Great,
Lindsay groaned.
So, we're doing this in the dark. The fuse box is in the basement,
The guard continued, wringing his hands.
but that's where it all started. I was gonna go down and have a look, but after the ghosts appeared…
He trailed off, clearly unwilling to volunteer himself. Basement, eh? Jamie exchanged a glance with Alex.
Okay, so 4 ghosts, 4 Spectros,
said Alex with a slight grin.
It's Spectro time.
Gina chuckled as Lindsay rolled her eyes and sighed. The moment the team stepped inside, a hush fell over the grand hall. The playful ghosts froze mid-air, their wide eyes growing even larger as they spotted the team standing at the entrance. For a split second, time stood still, each side examining the other with caution. Then, as if a silent alarm had been triggered, the ghosts scattered, shrieking as they went. The team watched, startled by the sudden dispersal as the colorful apparitions zipped off through the museum like supernatural drones.
Go, go, go!
cried Jamie, his voice cracking with urgency. Alex didn't hesitate and took off with Jamie in hot pursuit, vanishing into the shadowy depths of the West Wing behind one pair of spectral entities.
I hate it when they do that,
mumbled Lindsay.
So, that way?
Gina pointed towards the path of the other 2 spirits.
I guess.
Alex and Jamie found themselves standing outside the Ancient Egypt exhibit. Their eyes scanned the room, searching for any signs of ghostly activity. I don't like the way these statues are looking at me, mumbled Jamie, adjusting his van braces.
Yeah, me neither,
Alex replied.
Let's just get this done.
The marble floor gleamed under the soft moonlight seeping through the museum's high windows, marred by the telltale trails of neon goo, one yellow, one blue.
You go that way,
Alex whispered, his voice barely audible over the soft whine of the Spectro gear.
I'll go this way.
Jamie gave a quick nod.
Got it, bro.
Alex watched as Jamie disappeared into the shadows, his figure swallowed by the creeping darkness. He turned his attention to the display cases. Ancient relics, amulets, and faded papyrus scrolls lined the glass cases. The room was filled with an unsettling fragrance, a mix of ancient dust and the faintest hint of something otherworldly. The odor was almost palpable, centuries of history mingling with a ghostly residue. As he passed by a display of meticulously wrapped mummies, something caught his ear. A faint rattle, like bones shifting inside the glass case. He froze mid-step, his head turning slightly to the side. He squinted through the glass, wondering if his mind was playing tricks on him. Then he saw it. One of the mummies quivered slightly, like something was moving inside. Thick, yellow goo began to seep out from the cracks in the wrappings.
Not the mummies,
Alex whispered to himself as he leaned closer, his face nearly touching the glass. The mummy's head jerked, and with a loud crunch, it rolled off the body and hit the floor with a dry thud. Goo began to bubble and churn from the neck hole, and with a grotesque slurp, the yellow ghost squeezed its way up like toothpaste exiting a tube. Its gaze remained fixed on Alex as it twisted and contorted, emerging into the open air like a strange alien head. Alex jumped back as the mummy's arms shot through the glass, shattering it into 1,000 glittering shards.
No!
Cried Alex. The decayed corpse slammed into him, knocking him onto the cold floor. He groaned, feeling the air rush out of his lungs as the mummy pinned him, its rotting weight pressing down on his chest. The yellow ghost leered, its hollow eyes gleaming with sick amusement.
Get off!
Alex roared. With a desperate grunt, he managed to wedge his feet under the decayed corpse, and with every ounce of strength, he kicked hard. The brittle body flew through the air, its limbs flailing as it collided with a nearby pedestal. An ancient vase perched atop the pedestal teetered, wobbled, then toppled. The vase and the mummy's body hit the ground simultaneously, erupting into a shower of splintered porcelain and torn linen. Alex stared at the debris scattered across the marble floor, the weight of centuries reduced to shards in an instant. The yellow ghost, now free from the mummy and visibly enraged, let out a high-pitched squeal that pierced the air like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, me too,
replied Alex from his position on the floor. Without warning, the ghost hurled a blob of goo directly at him. It splattered across his chest, sliding down in thick, yellow streaks as he raised his hands a second too late. Alex glared at the ghost as he dragged himself to his feet, frustration bubbling up inside.
Okay, you want to play stupid games? Come here.
His lashes swept through the air, but the spirit was quick. With a burst of speed, it dodged his attacks and quickly shot past, its laughter echoing off the displays as it made its escape.
Great. Just frickin' awesome,
he muttered to himself as he stamped after it. Jamie moved silently along the left side of the exhibit, slipping between towering statues and ancient sarcophagi. The air felt warm, almost charged, as if the relics were alive with their own ghostly energy. Jamie's eyes flickered over the displays, searching for any sign of movement. As he slowly turned a corner, he could see rows of sleek, stone cat statues, perfectly aligned on a low platform, their eyes gleaming under the soft light. He paused. Something felt off. For a second, he could have sworn they were moving, following his every step. Suddenly, the eyes of one statue began to glow a bright, vivid blue, casting 2 circles of light on Jamie's worried face.
Oh no,
he muttered. The statue began to shift, groaning as cracks spiderwebbed across its surface. From its depths came a low, sharp hiss, like a snake slithering through dry leaves. The cat's limbs flexed, its tail whipping side to side as it sized Jamie up, preparing to pounce. Jamie tensed, his body coiled like a spring. His eyes narrowed, adrenaline spiking as he raised his arms.
All right, kitty cat,
he whispered, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart.
Let's do this!
With a powerful leap, the stone cat launched itself. Instinct kicked in, and Jamie swung, catching the statue mid-flight. The sound of Spectro lashes cracking filled the air as the statue exploded, sending a cloud of stone and dust billowing in Jamie's direction. He slowly emerged from the cloud, coughing and covered in a fine layer of grey powder. The blue ghost shrieked as it realized it had been exposed, flickering erratically like a dying light bulb.
Not so tough now, eh?
Jamie growled. He threw down a Spectro book, and with a practiced flick, he cracked his lashes, wrangling the ghost in a web of purple energy. Looks like this cat's out of lives. Jamie laughed to himself. The ghost thrashed wildly as he reeled it in, its cries filling the room as it was pulled down towards the Spectro book. The green tendrils flared as they grabbed hold of the spirit and dragged it inside, the book snapping shut with a satisfying click. Jamie leaned against a sarcophagus, taking a second to catch his breath before leaning over and picking up the book with a grin. Suddenly, Alex rounded the corner, his own lashes wrapped firmly around the yellow ghost. The entity cackled with glee as it dragged him through the exhibit, leaving a trail of slippery goo in its wake. He struggled to gain traction, but the ghost's glowing trail was quickly turning the floor into a slick, gooey mess. Jamie watched in disbelief as Alex's predicament worsened, his legs splaying like a baby deer as he fought to maintain his balance. Without hesitation, Jamie hurled another book onto the floor, its glowing mouth opening like an otherworldly chasm. "Alex! Hold on!" he roared, his voice cutting through the spirit's echoing laughter as he flung his lashes around it. They had it, both of them locked onto the writhing spirit as the energy crackled between their lashes. "On 3, said Alex. 1, 2, 3, yelled Jamie. With all their strength, they yanked the ghost down, trapping it within the book's glowing tendrils. The spirit wailed in protest as it vanished into the awaiting spectral prison. The dust began to settle, swirling gently as the moonlight filtered through the high windows. The stillness was heavy, almost oppressive. "Did you hear that?" said Alex. "Heard what?" replied Jamie, his eyes scanning the room. "I thought I heard something." A creeping sensation crawled up Alex's spine. The faint noise, like a growl, had disappeared into the museum's unsettling silence, but the feeling of being watched lingered. He wiped his brow, smearing a streak of glowing yellow goo across his forehead. "Alex," Jamie whispered, his voice shallow as he pointed towards the shadows. From the inky blackness of the room's upper corner, a set of iridescent purple teeth slowly revealed themselves, glowing faintly against the darkness. The teeth were long and sharp, and they moved with a slow, deliberate precision, tracking the pair's every movement. The air grew thick with anticipation, the museum's eerie silence only amplifying the pounding of the pair's hearts. The hunt had begun. And that, my friends, is the end of Volume 5. Our team has found themselves entangled in a web of supernatural danger in the heart of London. With Thorne's escape and the opening of the Erebus Gate, the team faces their biggest challenge yet. Will they survive the encroaching horrors and defeat this formidable foe? Or will the forces of darkness prove too much for our intrepid ghost wranglers? Find out in Volume 6. Until then, thank you for joining us on this thrilling adventure.